Hi, I'm Staci Joers and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to do marinara 2 ways with zucchini. So first we're going to make some zucchini lasagna rolls, and second we're going to do zoodles or zucchini noodles. Have a little fun, enjoy something delicious, and it's healthy at the same time. So hopefully you'll enjoy these recipes and want to make them on your own. So what we're going to start off with is zucchini. And we did just leave kind of the growing season, but there's plenty of farmers markets still going that have fresh zucchini. Your grocery stores carry it year-round, so it's something you can always get. Very nutritious for you and easy to work with in a lot of different ways. That you can use it as pasta, you can do it as a roasted vegetable, you can shred it, eat it raw in a salad. A lot of things you can do with zucchini. It's a multi-use vegetable. And I've got some decent sized medium zucchinis. We don't want the giant ones, you know, that everybody seems to get in their garden because they forget to pick them. We don't want the real skinny ones as well because they're not going to make enough surface area for us to make our zucchini rolls. And the real skinny ones will have to, you know, spiral 1,000 of them trying to get enough noodles for 4 people for dinner. So a good medium-sized zucchini. It's not going to be overly bitter. It's not going to be full of a ton of seeds. So it's going to be a good one to work with. I'd say this one's about a 2-inch diameter zucchini. And we're going to make some zucchini slices for our zucchini rolls. And for this, we're going to use a mandolin. Now, this mandolin has 3 thickness settings. When I go to slice the zucchini, I'm going to use it on the thickest setting. For these zucchini rolls, I want at least 1/4 of an inch thick. If I make them too thin, they're going to over brown and get crispy, and they're not going to roll real well. If I make them too thick, they're going to stay too wet, and they're not going to want to bake well. They're going to water everything down. So we're going to try to get it just right. These are our little Goldilocks. So we're going to take and trim the ends off of our zucchini. By the way, this has already been washed. We always want to work with nice, clean vegetables. And a little tip I can share with you real quickly is what I do for washing produce is I make a vinegar wash out of 1 part white distilled vinegar and 3 parts water. I keep it in a spray bottle. So I rinse these off real well with clear water, and then I spray them with my vinegar wash, and I let them stand for about 2 minutes. And that'll help for, you know, a lot of surface bacteria. I make that same kind of wash for lettuces, except I make it in a bowl and put my lettuces in there and let them stand for about 10 minutes and then dry them in a salad spinner. So it's a nice little utensil in your arsenal to know about, and it's super cheap to use. But for our zucchini, we're going to take this guy, set it on the thickness, the thickest setting for thickness, so about 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm going to do this barehanded. I'm really used to using a mandolin. They just do come with finger guards, which is the safe way to do this. With zucchini, when it's this large and I'm trying to get those first initial slices off of it, you need to put a lot of pressure on them. And sometimes these can slip. And so we need to get a flat spot on here and start getting a spot ready. These first few that come off aren't going to be great. They're not going to be the right shape. They're not going to be the right thickness yet. We just had to get a flat surface on here. You can see the end of my zucchini not quite ready, so I'm going to go from the opposite direction. That one again, I've got a tapering end. I didn't hold my pressure real good. If I bake this one, even though it's 1/4 inch right here, it's less than 1/8 of an inch here. This is going to brown and dry out before this roasts. Not a good slice. So we're going to take and put a lot of pressure on. And then I'm going to move my hand, put more pressure on. Move my hand, keep that pressure all the way down. And we're going to get a nice, even zucchini slice. So we're going to put that there. I'll get one more. There we go. And I'm doing this while the zucchini is nice and large. My hand is far enough away. I'm doing it so slow. There's not a lot of chance I'm going to slip and hurt myself with the mandolin. Once I start to get lower on the zucchini, then I will fit this in. I'm going to do the same amount of pressure. I'm going to lift that, move it, lift that, move it, keep that pressure all the way down. Nice, even slice again. So now what we do with our zucchini, once we have it sliced, oh, and always remember, close up your mandolin. This is safe for cleaning because that blade actually has a guard on it. So we'll get that out of the way right now. And what we do with our zucchini before we can even roast it is we do need to salt it a little bit. And so we're going to take and sprinkle. I use kosher salt for cooking. Kosher salt is a large crystal non-iodized salt. And I sprinkle it on. I can see how much salt I'm putting on my food. So I tend to use less salt. It's not iodized, so I don't get an off flavor. Iodine actually has a really strong flavor coming from the chef's side of things. A non-iodized salt is a cleaner flavor. But I sprinkle that on there because I want to get moisture off of my zucchini slices. And so I'm going to put these guys here, and I'm going to just show you the difference. There's one that I just salted. You can see how thick it is. Here's one that I salted earlier, had paper towels sitting on top of it, and all that moisture, I'm about half the thickness it originally was. All that moisture has soaked out of it. So now it's ready for roasting. Rule of cooking is wet food doesn't brown. So if I just took these slices without trying to get some moisture out, brushed them with olive oil and threw them in the oven, they would cook and get soft, but I wouldn't get any color on them. And when you're talking about cooking, color not only equals color on the food for attractive look, but it equals texture and flavor. So it's always important to be able to roast things and get color onto them. And so these guys all pressed and ready to go. Once they're pressed and ready to go, I will take these little guys. I'm going to take the two that I have already pressed. We're going to put them onto a baking sheet lined with parchment, and we're going to take a nice quality extra virgin olive oil. Now you can buy a lot of extra virgins at the grocery store. It's an almost overwhelming amount that they sell. A lot of what you see at the grocery store are what they call blended oils, meaning that they buy the oils from the world market, they blend them together to get the acidity and the flavor balance that they want. Those tend to be older oils, past season oils, not great quality, but that way they can bring them to you at a price point that's affordable. Some of the oils that are actually a really good quality at the grocery store level, if you're a Trader Joe's shopper, their extra virgin organic was rated #1 by Cooks Illustrated magazine. #2 was California Olive Ranch extra virgin olive oil. That's readily available at any grocery store. And #3 was Costco's organic extra virgin olive oil. So those were the top 3 as rated by Cooks Illustrated magazine. Now, here in Milwaukee, if you're in our area, we have some wonderful olive oil stores, and they're spreading across the nation, so you'll find them in almost every big city. But we've got a store that I like to visit, which is called Oro de Oliva, and they sell seasonal olive oils, meaning that if it's summer in the northern hemisphere, they're selling oils from the northern hemisphere. Summer in the southern hemisphere, the oils are coming from there. So they're very fresh. They're very high in phenols, and so they are very healthy for you. They're generally single origin olive oils, meaning they're not blended. And so this one happens to be Picual olive oil. Picual is a type of olive, and this tends to have a real peppery bite at the back of your throat. It's one of my favorite olive oils, and so I like to use it for a lot of different things, but it is a bit strong, so you can't use it for everything. But for today's recipes, it's going to be perfect. I'm going to put a little olive oil on my zucchinis, flip them, do the other side. And of course, I would have gotten, a dozen or so of my zucchinis already salted and pressed, ready to go in the oven. And I'll just take these guys, pop them into the oven, and we'll see them. We're going to roast them 425 for about 20 or so minutes until they're starting to turn golden and that they've roasted. They're going to become real thin. Now they're going to be about 1/3 of the thickness they are right now, and they're going to be pliable so we can roll them. Now you may get some cracking when you make the rolls. That's the nature of working with a vegetable instead of a pasta, but they are still going to be much better than trying to roll a raw zucchini. And so we're going to take and tuck those off the side. So while our zucchini is roasting, we're going to make our marinara sauce, which is going to go along with our zucchini, as well as our zoodles. Pardon me for turning my back there. I'm going to turn my heat on a little bit. Now, I like to work on a medium heat. And so most people cook on too high of a heat. Everybody's in a hurry. Let's get this done. Let's get the show on the road. I want to eat. What overheating your pan does is it creates hot spots in the bottom of the pan, which will eventually become permanent. You're going to get sticking and burning in those hot spots. You start a pan on medium, it's going to allow it to heat across the bottom and up the sides evenly, and you're going to have a temperature that's easy to control. I can cook on medium, get searing on medium, but I'm not going to burn things real easily on medium. And I had my pans on earlier because my big, heavy cast pans take a real long time to heat up on a glass top range, so I had turned them off, and now I'm giving them another minute or so to reheat while we talk about the marinara. And so I call this a 5-minute marinara, because once it reaches a simmer, we're only going to cook it for 5 minutes. We're going to keep the fresh flavor of the tomatoes. We're going to take a little bit of this piqual olive oil, so maybe about a tablespoon. And I am going to add a few cloves of garlic. So I really want to encourage everybody as much as possible to use fresh garlic. The little jars of garlic are really, really convenient. I keep one in my fridge all the time because sometimes I go to my fridge or I go to my cupboard and my garlic is sprouted, or I used up the garlic and I forgot to buy more. I always keep the little jar on hand as an emergency. But think about garlic. When you buy it in that little jar, it's packed in a liquid. Garlic is what they call an aromatic product, meaning its essential oil permeates the entire dish when you're cooking. It doesn't stay locked in its little self. It floods your whole dish with flavor. And so if you take something that's aromatic, like a garlic, and you chop it up and put it into a liquid, where does your liquid stay? It stays, or where does your garlic stay? It stays in the liquid. Let's say that properly. And so your flavor is all in that liquid, so you have to use 2, 3, 4 times more of the jarred garlic in order to get the flavor of a couple of cloves of fresh garlic. And so we're going to take and press this through a garlic press. Going to mince it up really nicely. It's going to release all of that essential oil. There we go. Give us a ton of flavor. I'm just going to do a couple of them here. Nice thing about a good garlic press, if you purchase a good garlic press, this is the Suzy by Xylus, you do not have to peel. So if you saw what I was doing, I was actually popping the peels out of my garlic press. I can press through, and therefore I don't have to handle the garlic. I don't get it all over my fingers. And so I tend to smell better, and people like me better. And so now coming over here, I'm starting my pan. I've got it on medium heat. We're going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, that piqual olive oil we talked about earlier. Just adjust that heat a little bit, working on that medium. And we're going to get our garlic in here. Oh, there goes that sizzle. Now the house is going to start to smell good. So we're just going to give that 30 seconds to a minute. We're not going to let it go real long. We don't want our garlic to brown. If garlic browns too much, it's going to start to get bitter. Again, that's why a low to medium heat is really important. The next thing we're going to add in there, and I'm making a double batch of this sauce. So when you see the recipe is going to be written for a single batch, but I'm making a double right off the bat because we're doing zucchini and marinara 2 ways. So I want enough of the sauce. But I'm going to use a 28-ounce can, 2 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes. We're going to get these guys in here. There we go. Get that second one in. Whenever possible, when I buy tomato products, I look for the low sodium tomato products. Hunt's does make just about every type of tomato, whether it's diced, sauces, paste, whatever they make it in a low sodium version, which is really nice because canned tomatoes have a ton of sodium in them, and we can all cut back on that. Trouble with canned products is you don't taste the sodium that's in here. I can always add a pinch of salt, but I can't take out what's in here already. Now the crushed tomatoes is the only one by Hunt's that I've never been able to find in the low sodium version. Hopefully it's something they will come out with, but it's still not horrendous with salt, but it's something you need to be aware of if you need to be on a low salt diet. But we've got our crushed tomatoes in there. I'm going to add a few seasonings to this. I'm going to add a little bit of dry parsley. So let's put a little bit of dried parsley. There you go, always measured so accurately. Here we go. Little bit of dried basil. So our flavors are going to be simple. Basil is going to give us a little bit of peppery sweetness. Parsley gives us a little bit of earthiness in the background. Tomatoes are going to be sweet and acidic. I am going to add a little pinch of sugar. Because tomatoes are acidic, we do need to counteract that sweetness a little bit and balance it out. Whenever we're cooking, we're trying to balance out salt, sour, bitter, and sweet, which are the 4 regions that your palate recognizes. So when you taste something and you go, wow, that tastes amazing, your salt, sour, bitter, and sweet are balanced and they're working in harmony. Tastes great to you. When you taste something, you go, ooh, it's missing. It's going to be missing salt, sour, bitter, or sweet, and you just have to train your palate to recognize that. The other thing I'm going to add here before we go too much further is I am going to add a little bit of crushed red pepper. There we go. How much you'd like to add is completely up to you. I like my marinara a little on the spicy side, so I put about a teaspoon into this double batch. And I say that you can put more or less. I buy all my spices fresh from the spice house, so they're very potent. So I have to be a little careful with how much of the spicy things that I put in. If you're buying them at a grocery store level, they're going to be a little older, so some of their essential oil is going to have faded, so you might need a little bit more. That's a play it by flavor. I'm going to put a little pinch of salt in here. Again, that's kosher salt, just a tiny pinch. I want our food to have flavor. Salt is a flavor enhancer, so it's going to bring your other flavors out and help them to balance. But again, you need to think about whether or not you can add salt. Lemon juice would be a way to get a little bit of a saltiness without salt. So just a squeeze of fresh lemon will trick your palate into feeling that there's salt in the food. That would be up to you. And so I'm just going to throw a lid on this. And I'm not gonna seal the lid. I'm just gonna put the lid on a slant so that I'm not getting tomato sauce all over the kitchen. It's like a boiling pot of lava. Right now I've got it on low and it's still simmering, simmering, simmering. Now this marinara, I love it because it's a really all-purpose sauce. I use it for mozzarella marinara. I do like an eggplant parmesan using this marinara. Sometimes I just toss it with pasta. It's a really all-purpose. Today we're doing the 2 zucchini noodle dishes, but the other reason I love it is it only has to cook for 5 minutes. So I call it my 5-minute marinara. So once it reached a simmer, which it did just a minute ago, it is ready in 5 minutes. We're going to turn it off. And that's going to preserve that fresh tomatoey flavor. So while that's cooking, I know our zucchini is done. So we're going to get the zucchini out of the oven. Look at our lovely little roasted zucchinis. Remember how large and thick they were. Now this is an unsalted one, but remember how large and thick they were. Now look at how much they've lost. So they've lost size, thickness, and they're really pliable. Remember, trying to roll fresh zucchini, it's just going to do that. Or it's going to, I just cracked it, so this won't work, plus it's going to flood your food with moisture. So they've been roasted, we've got color, we've got flavor, we've got texture. Those are ready to go. Our sauce is simmering away over here. Let's turn this down one more time. Just take a little stir on that. And we're almost ready to assemble our zucchini rolls. So we're going to make the cheese filling for this. Now, I'm calling these lasagna rolls. You could make this as an actual lasagna in a pan if you wanted, just like you would with noodles. You'd roast your zucchini like we've done right there, lay them out in the bottom of a pan, put your cheese mixture on, more zucchini, cheese mixture, layer it up like that. That's a fun way to do it. It's a little bit more time consuming. You have to roast more zucchini for that. Otherwise, I do them in these little rolls, and I can make, 1 or 2 or 3 per person, depending on how much you think your family's going to eat, and just make just enough of the zucchini to serve dinner that night. So for our zucchini rolls, or if you're going to lay it out as a flat zucchini. I am going to start with a little bit of ricotta cheese. Now I am using a light ricotta, so this is lower in fat, but it still has flavor. It's not the fat-free products. I'm not a huge fan of the fat-free, but again, that would be something you would talk with your nutritionist, your dietitian, to find out if you really do need to use the fat-free products. I am again coming from a chef standpoint. I like full fat things, but I will take and cut back to lower fat things and still get a very, very good flavor result. So this is the light ricotta. There we go. We'll put that right there. We're going to mix in a little bit of spinach. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, can't I start with fresh spinach? You know, you absolutely can, but for this recipe, the spinach would have to be blanched. So if I start with fresh spinach, I'm going to need to wash it, and then I'm going to need to put it into a pan. Put a little bit of water in there, bring it up to a simmer, put a lid on it for 5 minutes, turn it off, drain it, squeeze it dry, chop it, all to come up with exactly what's right here. And so don't feel shame using frozen vegetables. They're great products. 95% of them are domestically grown. They're harvested when they're ripe. They're processed within 8 to 24 hours of being harvested. And so they're high in nutritional value. So we've got the frozen spinach, thawed it, drained it. I'm just going to take and move my sauce off the burner so it can stop simmering now. But we've thawed the spinach, we've drained it. That's a 10-ounce package of chopped spinach. Once you squeeze the moisture out of it, you end up with about a half a cup, which is what you need for the recipe. So just use the entire 10-ounce package. We're going to take and put that in there. That off to the side. We're going to mix in a little bit of garlic, more of that fresh garlic. Garlic is so good for you. There you go. Anti-inflammatory properties, part of the allium family with onions, wards off vampires, all that kind of good stuff. A little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper. And I am going to take and use 1 egg. And I put the egg in here because eggs because of the protein in them, they act as a souffle agent. So instead of your cheese just being a heavy layer of cheese, the egg protein in the oven is going to puff up and give it more of a cheesecakey feel to it and lighten it up a little bit. So we'll put an egg in there. There we go. Move some of that off on the side. Okay. And last but not least, a little bit of reduced fat mozzarella. So to give us some of that stringy, cheesy pull and a little bit more flavor. There we go. We'll throw a little bit of that in there. Keep that in case we want to put some on the top of our zucchini rolls. And let's get this all mixed together. The spinach is probably the hardest part of this to mix together because once you've squeezed the moisture out of it, it wants to stay in a clump. It doesn't want to, get nice and separate again. So we're going to need to break that down. Okay. And I love the flavor of spinach in this because spinach is so earthy. It just jumps out for you really nicely. There we go. Mixed. We've got a pan. A little 8x8 or a 9x9 pan. I am going to take and give this a little spray. Make life a little easier later on for cleanup. Okay, I'll put that right there for right now. We're going to put a little bit of this 5-minute marinara into the bottom of our pan. There we go. Make a little home. Put that off to the side. And now we're going to take and get some of these zucchini rolls ready. So let me just lay out a few of these. That one got a little too crispy. We'll get these guys laid out. Okay, let's put that off. And then I've got a nice beveled spatula so that I don't drag my knuckles in here. We're going to put a little bit of our cheese filling onto our zucchini. Let's get these guys, we'll kind of production line these guys. Just run it right along there. And that one. And we're going to turn them, just get them rolled up and set in our pan of sauce. Make these little rolls. Nice thing, they stick to themselves. All that cheese in there. Here we go. And I'm going to fill this pan up with these guys. I'm going to drizzle a little bit more of the sauce over the top, and I'm going to top them with some mozzarella, and then we're going to pop them in. 425 oven again, and they really just need to heat through at this point, so we'll give them maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Once they're heated through, maybe your cheese is browning a bit on top, they're ready to come out. So we'll show you those in a few minutes. Okay, so now that we've got our zucchini rolls in the oven and those are baking happily away, we're going to do part number 2 of this recipe, our marinara 2 ways with our zucchini, and we are going to make some zoodles. So I'm going to put a nice pan on the stove on medium heat again, start it warming up. I've got a little bit more of that fresh garlic minced up ready to go, and we're going to get our zucchini noodles made. Now, you can buy zoodles at the grocery store, already cut for you, ready to go, but you pay a premium for that. Zucchini itself is a really inexpensive vegetable. You're going to pay 4 to 5 times the amount for the convenience of somebody cutting them for you. And sometimes time, in our lives, it's worth it. Buy them already done. But if you have the time to take to do it yourself, it's a much more reasonable thing to do. And all you need is a zucchini spiralizer. One of these little guys. Easy to find. You're going to find them at a Kohl's, anywhere they have a good kitchenware section. Amazon, $10. So not an expensive kitchen utensil. This one I bought a number of years ago. You can see there's a little zucchini spiralizing blade in there. I got 5 different sizes, so I can do my noodles from tiny angel hair to big wide noodles, just depending on what I want to make, if I want them to appear like fettuccine or spaghetti or however it is. So for today, I'm using kind of a medium-sized blade. Zucchini washed again. We're going to trim our ends. Here we go. I'm going to cut it in half. This was too long to fit in there whole, so we're going to cut this in half. It's got little suction cups on the bottom. So I'm going to take and suction that down. We're going to bring that right over. Put that on there. Get our catch-all. And you can do enough zucchini for 20 people in about 5 minutes. So it goes really fast. You're always left with a little core in the center, because you need something to hold it on there so it stays balanced while you're spiralizing. There we go. And our little nubs like this, we can just take and slice down and work those in as a vegetable, a larger chunk vegetable in our zucchini noodles later on. So we'll just take and do some slicing there. There we go. Now, these come off really long. So usually what I do is I grab my pile of noodles and just put a cut or 2 through them, just so they're easier to handle when I go to saute them later on. Now, if you remember, we talked about zucchini having a lot of water in it when we made the roasted zucchini planks for the zucchini rolls. Same logic applies here to our zoodles. Tons of water in these. If I go to saute them just like this, I'm going to get a flood of water in the pan, and it makes them messy, unattractive, wet, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do the same thing with these that I did with our zucchini planks, in that I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of salt. You don't need a lot, and most of this is going to weep off and be absorbed when we put them on paper towel. We toss them up with a little bit of salt that draws the moisture out, and we're going to put them onto paper towel and let them drain. Put more paper towel over the top and really press them. Get all that moisture out of there. And I've got some zucchinis that are already have their moisture kind of absorbed out of them, ready to go. So these have been been pressing and moisture coming out, absorbing into my paper towel. So those are ready to go. Give them 15 or 20 minutes after you salt them with the paper towel on them to really get that moisture out. Sometimes you even have to go with a little extra paper towel in between if they're especially wet. So once they've drained and you've got that moisture off of them, we're gonna make our zoodles. This is gonna go together so fast because you really don't need to cook them. This isn't pasta. We're just gonna warm them through. And so I'm gonna take a little bit of that great extra virgin olive oil, a little tiny bit of that in there. And by the way, if you're not an olive oil fan, you can use avocado oil, you can use grapeseed oil, you could even use a nonstick spray in here if you're really trying to cut back on fat. You just need a little bit of fat in the pan of some sort to start the sauteing process. And so a little bit of garlic again, freshly minced. Let's get that started. Okay. Get our heat going a little bit more there. And we're gonna get this started. Sauteing nicely. Oh, the smells. It's sad you don't have smell-o-vision because the smell is so good. There we go. I'm just gonna give this another 20 or 30 seconds or so. I see a lot of movement in here in my oil. I've got a nice sizzle in my garlic. Remember, I don't want to brown it because I don't want it to get bitter, but I do want it to really flavor the oil that's in the pan. Once I get just a little bit more movement here, I'll get my zoodles in. We're going to toss them through maybe 3 minutes. We just need to heat them through. One thing you will notice with them is the longer they sit, like when you're making dinner at home, you want to have everything ready. Your sauce ready, hot, ready to go, salad made, bread cut, whatever you're gonna have, people sitting at the table, ready to go. You put the zoodles in the pan, they take, just a few minutes, 3 minutes or whatever, and then you start to serve immediately. Because if you let them sit, more of that moisture comes out of them. And then you're gonna have a pan of wet noodles. And it's not something people like. They just really, really don't like it. So you wanna make sure that you serve immediately, and that's what we're gonna do today. So if you can hear that nice little sizzle we've got going there now, let's take a bit of our, I didn't cut those as well as I thought I did. There we go, let's get those guys in there. Okay, that'll be enough for what we're cooking right now. Let's get them in here. If you want a little salt and pepper on them, you can. Now remember, I did salt them. We pressed them. Most of that salt came out. So I'm not going to add any extra salt to them. I don't want more to draw more moisture than we're going to get naturally. But I am going to put a little bit of black pepper on here. So let me just grab a little bit of my freshly ground pepper. Give them a little bit there. There we go. All right, let's get them tossed up. Make sure that garlic is getting all the way through there. Let's give them, like I said, that 3 minutes or so. And then we are gonna plate these up and we are gonna serve them with our marinara sauce. And by the time I have these done, our zucchini rolls should be coming out, and we'll show you all our finished recipes for the day. And I hope that you will want to try and make these. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you'll give these recipes a try at your house. And go ahead and subscribe to the address below and find more of our wonderful cooking videos here. And leave us a message. Let us know what you thought. If you liked the recipes, how they turned out for you. But we've got our zucchini rolls plated on a little bit of our extra 5-minute marinara, as well as our zucchini noodles, our zoodles with our 5-minute marinara. Both are wonderful dinners that your family are going to love. So join me again. We'll see you again soon, and take care.